All right. Welcome back to another soul stirring episode of Irreconcilable Differences, a podcast with your girl, Sophia Lewis, your personal success strategist. And of course, I have my guest co host that will be joining me today, Miss Desiree Horner. And then later on, we're going to have Dr. Rosie Cook Askins come on because, we got to have a little dose of that mental and what we're dealing with on today. Well, I'm really excited though because our last show was really, really good, and we really wanted to capitalize on the fact that we are talking about torn but not tied, breaking toxic bonds for good. And this is something that has come up because it's not about being deep. This is really just about deliverance. And, it's really come up pretty tough recently about the fact that it's enough. We've all had that moment when we finally walk away from something or someone, but we still feel stuck. Why is that? Because leaving physically is one thing. Emotional, mental, and spiritual ties battle. And a lot of times you don't even know you're in the battle. You might be triggered later on, or you go to enter into something new or the next phase of your life, and you can't quite enjoy it. So tonight we're going to go there. As you know, it deals with me. I'm very vulnerable. I've been through too much to sugarcoat for your feelings to make you feel okay. So we're not going to do that. No more surface level healing. You know what I'm saying? It's time to pull to that root. We got to get like the dentist and just dig deep and dig it out. So the first half of us, streaming live tonight. So you can text your tribe. You can share this link. Let's do this together. And I need you to drop in there if you have comments, if you have questions to dig deep in. We want to do that. We really want to unpack, and just shift. Understand that sometimes walking away is so we want to really deal with breaking soul ties. We hear about this, Desiree, about soul ties. Some people in the deep community talk about it, but thing to deal with
is
soul ties. So in your opinion, what has been your experience with soul ties?
Oh, okay. So we're gonna be vulnerable. Soul ties are they're difficult. I'll definitely say that because one of the biggest problems we don't recognize that toxic bond. So we hit this place of it looks good on the outside, right? Like it feels good, it looks good, all those great things, but we never take that moment to actually recognize that this bond is toxic. We stay in relationships, we stay in friendships, we stay in jobs longer than we should. Why? Because it's comfortable. And we get to this place where comfortable is great for us, but we don't look at the bigger picture as to what's really happening. Comfortable is great. I love being comfortable. I am comfortable right now. Listen, with my t-shirt on and pajama pants. I like being comfortable. But we can't stay in those comfortable places because what ends up happening is we get into that bad company. That bad company that sits there and makes us doubt ourselves, makes us shrink ourselves. It gives us that seed of doubt that we don't need. And when we recognize that toxic bond, that's when things start to get a little uncomfortable and real.
Yeah. And let's put it all out there. I was having a conversation actually, I think it was with my grandson earlier and with somebody else about slavery, and talked about the fact that it doesn't take physical chains to keep you bonded. There was a time in American history where there were more slaves in the United States than the masters that owned them. However, they didn't collectively come together, the masters, and take our freedom back at that point. Why? Because they had an emotional, mental bondage. And again, that's the same thing when we have soul ties. You can have these invisible chains that keep you stuck in a relationship for whatever reason. reason. It could be the fear of retaliation, the fear of getting out. You've been ostracized while you've been in that relationship, so you've broken relationships with other family members that they don't trust, that you want to get out and have a healing. It could be that you feel the despair of being a part of that, because depression is also like having another invisible chain that you have around you as well. And so it's so important to understand that that soul tie, and I say this in earnest. I was in marriage counseling, and going through when you're hurt in something, sometimes your rage and you don't have tolerance, and it can come out in different ways when you're hurt, because hurt people do hurt people. No matter how the root of your hurt came, you can hurt other people even in the midst of you coping. So I remember he asked me, he said, so are you cheating? And I said, no. Why would you say that? He said, okay, well, if you're not cheating, is there somebody that's in your heart? And I was like, no. Why would you say that? Like, if I left my husband today, there's not somebody else I'm going to. And he said, okay, well, do you have in your mindset that one that got away? And that none of those were the case in that regard, but it made me think. That's why I really wanted to do about the soul ties, because so often that is true, that you still couldn't quite get over. And when you first got with whomever you're with, sometimes you may start to compare, whether it's things that they did, whether it was your intimacy level. And, for me, and he was like, well, you don't need to do that. I said, well, sometimes comparing can be good, because I was able to say I didn't have a healthy relationship prior to this. So I knew that this was something completely different than what I had been exposed to. And that was good. But I got what he meant by stuck in a place where you're constantly living in a past relationship because you have not truly severed that tie. So the first thing I would love us to get into is way number one to break free. How to renounce and release somebody and or a thing, because it could be you were addicted to pornography, you were addicted to shopping, which that in and of itself can destroy a whole world. Gambling, there's all kinds of things you can be addicted to. You can be addicted to pride. You got to be the one that the best dressed, the this and that, to a vain component, not because you're trying to keep up with yourself to be clean and have respect, but now it becomes a vain thing because your whole existence is your outward appearance. But to renounce and release, you have to speak it out loud. You have to call it what it is. And I'll never forget, I heard Ayanna Van Zant in one of her shows way back in the day. She was talking to a guy that he did not want to say it. And she was like, let's call that thing a thing. Like, you have to be issue that you have at hand. And so here's something for an example. I release the emotional, physical, and spiritual ties I have with so-and-so. I break agreement with anything that binds me to what, like, it could be something as simple as that. By making the declaration, I want to break the tie with this individual. I want to break the agreement. I want to break whatever's binding me, individual or to a thing. Speak it out loud. And it's not out loud where like everybody, where you are even pronouncing it and declaring it to yourself. That's where healing can start, because it agrees with your mouth. Life and death is what? Power of the tongue. Yeah. In on this, even from your experience when you're dealing with individuals from a mental health perspective, because how can someone, some of that advice about healing start when your mouth agrees with your decision and you reclaim mentally? How can someone utilize that as a step to start?
So first, I would want to a soul tie. A lot of times, people associate a soul tie as this negative, bad thing that I got with person, somebody I was intimate with, somebody I had something to, and that's not necessarily always the case. You can have with a bestie, you can have a soul tie family member, you can have a soul tie that is either a godly or ungodly connection to somebody. And so ungodly soul ties, talking about irreconcilable differences, and just like you said with the prayer and everything, in mental health, we call that trauma bonding, enmeshment, or a personality disorder or social disorder, depending on what that looks like. But in order to break free from that, you definitely have to have that conversation. Unhealthy here. If you know that you just can't live without that person, that you're picking up the same habit, you know, you're doing the same things that they're doing, you can't get away from that person, something is not right here. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of times, and a lot of times people, we're gonna go back again, rejection, abandonment, and they will end up trauma bonding. And acknowledge it, be truthful about it, take accountability and ownership. Hey, I've made some poor choices or poor decisions with these friends that I'm making. Even when we get into that praying as Christians, we have, like you said, we're going to prayer, and we can't forget to fast, because some things don't come out unless we fast and pray. We have to be intentional. How are we going to break that thing?
I love how you brought out that soul ties aren't always negative, and I love that you talked about trauma bonding. As a survivor of trafficking, domestic violence, they talk a lot about trauma bonds that are created with your perpetrator. Trauma bonds, it's literally building a bond over trauma. And just like veterans, when they're out there in the field with soldiers, they build bonds surviving trauma. And it's not always a negative thing. It could be actually what is a survival mechanism for you, because you built a trauma bond with someone that allows you to get through. But then you can also, on the flip side, like what we're saying too, you can also have the negative and unhealthy side of a trauma bond or a soul tie. And like we stated before, to a person, not an individual. It could be literally to an ambition or an assignment that is not for you. I have a scripture. I want to throw scripture out, so let's talk. In 2 Corinthians 6:17, therefore, touch no unclean thing and I will receive you. So a lot of times this even lets you know the thing that is literally killing you. And I even posted earlier, sometimes the best way to show yourself love is to walk away from something that is killing you silently. And it can be that friend. It could be that family member. It could be that job. It could be certain ministry. Let's get into it. I've had to walk away from certain things in ministry because it was not for my edification. I had to also realize I can get pimped in the church. I had to also realize that every assignment that someone is trying to give me is not for me. And it is healthy to say no after you have fasted and prayed on that thing. Everything is not for you to do. And so being able to have a healthy prayer life and an intimate relationship with God allows you to discern what is actually for you and what is something you can politely say, I don't have the capacity at this time to do. And it's not about you being disobedient. It's not about you having to live through a guilt trip. Oh, well, you're not listening to your leader. The leader truly is God, but then God is not going to have the leader put you in a predicament that will silently kill you. Desiree, I saw you want to say something.
And like you're right. One of the things we have to think about too is going back to the root cause. So when we have these soul ties that are popping up, what caused us to get here? What really caused us to get here? When did this actually happen? What event, what trauma, what gave this access to come into play where we can now sit here and go, oh, okay, this is where I'm comfortable. This is where I'm going to be stuck. And then we have to remember too, just because we're torn, just because we're tied, like that doesn't mean we're stuck in this place. Like we can get free. We do get free. Like the three of us, like we get free.
Yes.
We get free.
Yeah, and that
and
goes right into way number 2. It's about breaking free. Go ahead. Dr.
I was
Rosie,
going to
you were going to say?
recognize their inner soul tie. I said, sometimes people don't even recognize that they're even in a soul tie. They don't even know what that looks like. Think, oh, okay, I'm cool with my person. Y'all jealous of the friendship. Y'all just jealous of the connection when you got your peers and your loved ones, even other people telling you, listen, that ministry is wearing you out. This is unhealthy for you. Or what's going on here. When it's unhealthy and telling you something ain't right about it, you might want to take a look at that. So I think we also need to identify a real. And sometimes people don't really believe that. They don't believe transference is real. They don't believe that you can have an ungodly somebody, and you can. And we want to deny that this is what's going on. I love this person. Oh, the wheels fall off. I ride and need that person. That person is nowhere around. Or all of a sudden you having dreams and nightmares and stuff trying to snatch you and you sick up. You trying to call on the blood of Jesus. You can't get up. You didn't attach to somebody who's attached to something that's attached to something. I remember when I was a teenager, there was this guy that oh my God, he was just to cast me out. He was everything, right? Tall, dark, and handsome, all the wonderfulness. But the Lord started giving me dreams. And I'm like, why do I keep having these weird dreams? And so me being Lord, if this person is just not it, because the math with this person, stay away from him. And I was like, Lord, if something's wrong, you show me. And he came over to me. My mom was like, you can't come in my house. And I used this favorite little cross on my neck. I was like, well, Lord, if this person is just I shouldn't be around them at all, show me. And I kid you not, his face kind of shift. And he started looking like a little wolf to me, right? Next thing you know, the whole cross fell in the sewer. I know that sounds crazy, but I was like, oh, I got to get away from you. But then I didn't learn because he was pressuring me to do some stuff that I had nobody's business doing, teenager dream. And in the dream, I was on my neck like a little thing. You talked about that, my neck. Attached to that was chains. Then I saw him different chains with people. And I'm like, whoa. I said, needless to say, we can't be friends. We cannot. We just can't. God will show you, and people will identify it, but we have to have the spiritual and that prayer life discernment to be able to recognize that there are people we got to cut away with fast, quick, fast, and in a hurry.
I appreciate that, Dr. Rosie. And I'm going to talk to those that's not, to those that don't, because you just said you were a teenager, you evangelist, anybody at that age. And I want to just say to those that may not be saved, they may not, God still sends a way for you to escape. I just need you to know you don't have to be going to church every single day, knee deep in prayer all day, 5 times a day, have the cloth in the title for God to let you know when something is toxic and it's time to go away. I even say with the long-term relationship I had out, and I didn't even acknowledge him. He gave me 4 opportunities for friendship, and I still managed to let him talk me back into going back with him. And then I felt guilty. And then, well, he said it was a mistake. He really loves me. And because I was rebelling from the last relationship of somebody but didn't really want to make me public. And so here's somebody that's not that guy, but like, so I want that because I'm yearning for that. Because I'm so used to this hidden whatever for men. I wanted someone to really embrace me. Now, I ignored everything all 4 times. And 2.5 years of my life. 2.5 years of my life, emotionally, financially, and it took years away. When he gave me the out, and it wasn't, he didn't sign with the dove coming out. I didn't need to hear a preach word of me feeling destitute within the relationship, not having a voice, being oppressed. I mean, there was just so many signs there without all of that. And so I just say to the audience that may be watching that you don't have to be super religious for God to send a word to protect you. And I think like us that get on that do have a relationship, when we don't mention for all phases of where you are in your walk with, get there, or are you just trying to live in this moment? Understand that he does us because you're not where somebody else is. And if that was here, because he had to speak to all of us in a state of being lost, he had to speak to all of us in a state of us being in our at some point for us to get here. So never feel like when we go deep that it doesn't apply to you because you're not there yet. Get there, and he still has a love for you regardless of where you're at, because it has. That's where Desiree earlier was talking about mindset, and I wanted to go in because that's really our segue to way number 10 for you to attempt to start breaking free is to renounce and release. You have to acknowledge that it's an issue. Like Dr. Rosie just said in regards to, listen, I had to dream. Like I saw some things that just wasn't sitting easy with me. Like you have to be super deep to be like something ain't. Sometimes we ignore the sitting right. And then years later, you look back and be like, oh my gosh, I knew I should have left him alone a long time ago. So the second part of this is going to be about rewiring your mindset. You have to be able, even after the person is gone, the patterns try to stay. You know, they tell you, what's that saying? If it looks like a duck and quack like a duck, it is a duck. Or they always tell you if you're yeah, not a lot of people that cuss a lot. You will eventually may catch on to start cussing a lot because you are the company that you keep on a consistent basis. I'm gonna say that because I have family and friends that's not. I mean, they cuss, they don't go. Still love them. I'm still going to embrace them and love them. I can't be too deep because certain same way when you're trying to break a tie, some of those toxic loops in your head may stay. Maybe it was me, maybe it wasn't me, maybe they'll have to change, maybe I deserve that. Like even those types of things start creeping in. So the second thing we want to talk about to break free is to write your story. Opportunity for you to take control of replacing their voice, those memories, the sense of failure in your head with and I'll give an example, I don't know if you've ever had those moments, and I'm talking to you, Dr. Rosie and Desiree. Actually, I'm going to take Doctor off. I'm talking to Rosie and Desiree. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you said, why me, God? Like, why me, God?
Yes.
Like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Enough, why me? Like, crying, why me? I have a poem I wrote years ago in my first book, Why Me? But then you have to change that narrative to say, why not me?
Exactly. And that's what happens. We're gonna get in those woe is me moments. We're gonna get in the why did everything that could be everything happen to me? Why did I have to look funny? Why did I have to be this way? Why did I have to be so caring? Why my heart? Why? We get into that state, and sometimes we gotta remember that we are human. And that we're going to feel all the feels, and we have to understand that the feels are going to come, but then we can't stay stuck in that place. I was just telling someone recently, because they were like, I can't pray. I don't know what to say. Sometimes I just feel numb. And I was like, okay. And when I was like, let's explore this. And as they're trying to explore, they couldn't come up with nothing. And so, but the tears were coming. And I was like, but here's the thing, your tears speak volumes. Sometimes we have to understand that our tears is the prayer. Our tears is the declaration that we're tired of it. Our tears is the declaration that we want something different. And sometimes we feel like, especially some of us are in minority cultures, we feel like if we cry, we are weak.
Mhm.
Or if we acknowledge that we hurt or we're angry, that we're weak. And no, we're not weak. God gave us those tears. He gave us the ability to feel. We just can't rest in that. So like you said, we'll say, why me, why me? But then after a while, you got to come out of that why me and say, yeah, why not me? Now
Why
show
not
me, God,
me?
or let me
Yes.
find those strategies to figure out what it is I need to do to ensure that the enemy recognizes that I'm a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, actually, he knows. That's why he tries to come with our mind in the first place and who we are not. And this is happening because God don't love you, or they don't love you, or this don't. No, 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 no. I divorce your words. You are a liar, and we're breaking
Mhm.
up. Just like that one song by Kirk Franklin, Hello Fear. Before I let go, I got some things I need to tell you. You don't get to take
Mhm.
over my emotions, my mind, my thoughts anymore, because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So I'm crying today, but when I get up, you better watch out.
And it's
Yeah, I
true. Like
love
you
what
have
you're,
to really
those aren't just affirmations. It's mental warfare.
it is, and you have to build from that. And like so, okay, let's be real vulnerable. I got the title. That's great. Evangelist is great. However, I still doubt myself.
Mhm.
I went from a relationship where I was emotionally abused. I went from a relationship where I was verbally abused into what is now a healthy relationship, and what the issue I often have. So perfect example, I'll get dressed. And before I get dressed, I go, "Can I wear this? Can I wear this?" And he's looking at me like, "What do you mean can you wear this?" And I'm not asking for permission from him. In my mind, I'm asking because I don't want an argument. I'm asking because I don't want that fight. I'm going back to what
Mm.
I was with the trauma I went through. But
Mhm.
in reality, and I just said this 2 days ago when I was speaking to a group of women, we have to stop being with unequally yoked partners. And I'm not talking about the men we're married to. I'm not talking about our partner, even our friends. Even our like
Yep.
I thank the Lord for both of y'all because of the fact I can be Desiree. I don't have to be Evangelist. I don't have to be anybody else
Mhm.
but me.
Mhm.
Listen, I called Rosie one day and said I'm having a hard time, and was breaking down crying, and she was
Mhm.
there for me. We have to have
Mhm.
people that we can
Absolutely.
turn to, that we can go to, that can help us along that healing process. Because if we stay stuck in this
Mhm.
place of we're not healing, if we stay stuck in this place of we just keep reliving, we stay stuck, we stay tied. Our goal is
Mm.
to break free.
Mhm.
We can't break free if we're staying stuck. We can't break free if we're staying with that same circle. And like you were just saying, Tyler Perry, I love watching Tyler Perry. But his Medea character said, if someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yeah. That's what
We
Maya
get those red
Angelou's
flags,
point.
and what do? We
Yep.
go, oh,
That is a
listen.
my answer all day. Yeah.
I love
Mhm.
it though, because and I remember when he did it, because I was like, he's showing me that he's a great actor, right? But he's dressed as a woman, and I was really conflicted with this for a while. I really was. But it's like, you're showing me that you're a great actor. You're broadening my thought process and all of that. We have to get to a place, if we're going to heal, we have those people who are around us broadening our thought process, pushing us to heal, pushing us in
Yeah.
those uncomfortable places that I don't like for either one of y'all to push me in, but you do, and I appreciate it. I
Well, I love,
appreciate
you
it.
know,
And that's
you're really speaking. I just love your vulnerability, Desiree. And I just, you're really speaking about Romans 12 and 2. do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And I'm going to put in your life or for your life. And it's so very true
Right.
that, again, as Rosie was talking earlier,
Right.
it wasn't just affirmations, being able to translate those words from what might be going through your mind to repurposing them. It is a mental warfare, and you have to at some point you got to get fed up, and you got to get fed up with what the enemy is trying to do. You got to get fed up with what life is throwing your way, and say, I have to take control of this. God, what's up? To talk to him earlier this year, when I was at the point where my husband was saying some, antidepressant medications, I got other people saying you might want to, look at medication because you've just been in such a down state for so long. But of course, I can't tell anybody, unless you've been kidnapped, tortured, and human trafficking survivor, unless you've been in my shoes, really what it's like going through this phase. The day before I was supposed to go, which was on my birthday, January 18th, on January 17th, I remember I'm done. Like, I can't, and I meant my rapist, the enemy, any more of me. My freedom, I gave you my dignity. You took my finances, you took my health 14 surgeries later. You didn't took my joy, but you can't. And I just remember I didn't ask God for anything at this point. I started declaring, I'm not having any more surgeries this year. I don't care how bad it gets. I'm not taking any medication. I started declaring for myself what the enemy was not going to continue to do. And there has to come a point when you rewrite that narrative in your life. You start declaring, stop begging God. God heard you the first time. He didn't say you got to, he said ask. He didn't say ask plural. He didn't say keep asking. He said ask and I shall. And so there has to come a point where you say, God, I need this. This is what's happening. To start declaring out to the enemy, why are we scared of him? He's beneath us. We have the power, especially after which you've received the Holy Ghost, to be able to cast him out of situations. You can declare prosperity in your own life, health in your own life. You have to start getting so upset. Like when you're ready to cuss somebody else out, why don't you tell the enemy off? Why don't you tell him where he can go and how he can
Exactly.
residence where you're at? Start reclaiming and rewriting.
Because God did not call us to be no victims. He did not call us to be a victim. And we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Why we sitting in it? Why? And it gets you get to a point to where you do get exhausted. You get mentally exhausted. You get physically exhausted. You just get tired.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said in our last podcast, I talked about it. Enduring molestation and all this other stuff for years. I just felt like a dumping ground. So I would take more stuff than what I needed to take until I got to a point to where I was like, you have to make a decision on whether or not you're going to continue to allow people to dump on you like you a garbage can. Or you gonna go ahead and put that garbage out, put it in another dumpster, because I'm not a dumpster anymore. And it gets to a point like people look at me now and they're like, oh, she gonna say what she feel and feel what she say. But for years, I was that person because of all the trauma, because of past abuse. I was muted. I would not say a word, and I would just go off somewhere and just cry like a little old baby. And when I got tired, I just fight. My fists were my words until I started realizing that my voice had power. But I had to believe it within myself.
That's
and
so
one of the things that I do now, I'm telling you, I got to a point to where I was like, Okay. I got to a point where I was like, you know what? You have to teach people how to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm this evangelist, this man, put that away. First, I'm a human. I'm God's child. So what you're gonna treat me is like who He said I was. If He said He knew me before I was created in my mother's womb, Jeremiah 1:5. If He tells me Jeremiah 29:11, He knows the thoughts that He thinks towards me, and His thoughts are good to give me a hope and a future. How dare you come tell me that my future is not bright? So now I'm gonna have to show. I have to show you better than I can tell you. But again, it starts with that identity, and a lot of times, yes, that mental warfare, but it's that identity crisis. Who are you? Who does God say you are? I'm not a trash can. I'm not a dumpster. I'm not a minority. I'm a king's daughter. That's who I am, and you're gonna treat me accordingly. And guess what? In order for me to make it believable, I'm gonna have to treat me the way that I believe you should treat me. So it's gonna start with me 1st. And I was not like this years ago. I wasn't even like this about 5 years ago. I would sit in church and let people just mistreat me, talk about me, call me names, and I'm like, Lord, I'm trying to live this holy life. And I'm gonna either be black or white, hot or cold. I don't know how to be in between, because either I'm gonna fight them or I'm gonna be so quiet. Now I'm just gonna take it. And I'm like, you know what? They doing it because there is no so that's the other thing. There's no boundary set. So when I begin to speak up and say, whoa, 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 this is not, I carry something valuable within me with my gifts, my anointing, my talent. Let me show you better than I can tell you. You don't get to abuse that. You don't. Let me go and take my treasure back and go and mind my business until you can learn how to respect me. And that's just how I move now. And I don't. And I used to feel guilty about it, but I don't feel guilty about it.
You sound like Jesus. Jesus went in the synagogue flipping tables, talking about what y'all doing. The Bible says you can be angry but sin not. Don't give me this. We got to sit back and take whatever you dish out. And that's why I love. I was going crazy over here with you about what you were saying, because peace isn't passive. It's not passive. It's powerful. It's a choice to no longer carry what crushed you, to no longer allow negative energy in your space. That is actually the third thing to talk about for us today. Your space and routine. Yes. Even your environment matters. Cleaning out the reminders, shifting the atmosphere in your home, in your mindset, even within the job, creating a space for God healing for you, and being able to have the cut of your life. It is a courageous thing to cut a cord. It is a courageous thing not to answer this phone when somebody is very, very courageous for you to say no, especially in a spiritual environment. They want to make you feel delivered. I can love you and still not deal with you on no daily basis. I have family that I love. I care about their well-being, but I'm not calling. They're not in my face every day, because it might be a negative environment. So your peace where your boundaries flow. Come on. So if you feel convicted to block that number, block it. You don't need closure from them. When you've got confirmation, validation from anybody that's living, if you already know what God said for you to do or what He has for you to do. Isaiah 26:3, thou will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusted in thee. What that means is, if I know that if I answer the phone from Sister Slewfoot and all she is gossip, talk, and have drama, that's me keeping my peace. I know that this individual from my past around, they bring out this negative energy even within me, or I am things I used to do back in this old life of me, that I'm not going to be around them. So you have to do work in the keeping of your peace. And that's why it's not passive. And I love how Rosie said, I got to a point. You got to the Jesus moment in the synagogue. Enough is enough. Period. You're not going to keep dumping and treating me like trash. Even Desiree said it earlier. Like there has to come a point, and she said you have to make a decision along this grieving, because you grieve toxic ties. Even though they were toxic, you still grieve them. There's people that abuse me that I still love them. And so it was even hard for me to let go of them. And I still will reflect every now and again on that past. But I had to make a decision that I'm worth more than that. I'm worth more than that. And that life is too short for me to still be stuck on a past thing. It's too short. I can die tomorrow, and I've been stuck on you for 5 years for what? Or I've been depressed and upset for what? So we know there's a season for all things. There's a season to mourn. There's a season for grieving. We know that God gives us that. They actually had professional mourners back in the day. But when do you fast track some of that was not even meant for your good? I'm not talking about you losing a mother or father and you grieving that void. But even when David was grieving, they had to go. Saul had to say, "Listen, now it's been 3 years. Yeah,
get on
now. Get on up. God still has a work for you to do. It doesn't mean you don't stop missing." And I'm talking about positive ties, positive soul ties. Doesn't mean you miss them. You don't miss them in that state of grief indefinitely. Desiree, what do you say on that about reclaiming your peace?
I say stop microwaving your healing, though, also. Yes, there is a time where we have to get over it. But at the same time, how can you say that you're free, but you're still bleeding? We can't do that. You need to stop getting to a point of we're rushing our healing. Yeah, we're hurt here. Yeah, this hurts here. So let's go vulnerable. I lost a child. Okay. Yes, it still hurts to this day, but guess what? I'm able to take that experience and use it for something greater. Did it happen overnight? No, it did not. No, it did not. It's been 15 years and it still hurts. It still hurts. But I did not rush through my healing. The wounds are still visible. It still requires care. You have a surgery. You get stitches. You still got to take care of that, right? We're not going to sit here and go run a marathon 2 days after we've had surgery. Why? Because that wound that was there, because they had to cut into you, it still requires care. Go to therapy. Go fast. Go on a fast. Listen, a 30-day fast is hard, but it's necessary sometimes. Journal, cry, whatever it is, just stop suppressing it because you want to fast track through it.
Or because others tell you
we have to stop
you to fast track through it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they can tell you to fast track through it.
Say that again, Rosie.
I said, or stop trying to fast track through it.
Yeah.
There is no time limit on grief.
Yeah, that's the worst when they trying to tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if this is what I have this is a question I have. Venting, it was about victory too, and it was about feeling free to heal, feeling free to grow, to love again, starting with yourself. And when we come to irreconcilable differences and we wanted to go through divorcing situations, people, or things that have held down, right? Whatever that may be. I want to end with this. What do you feel about the need for people via social media when you hear that they've become depressed because they're so busy to what they feel or think is a better life, or a quick snapshot or video? What do you want to say to that? That's just a quick one-off, but again, it's about kind of like, I just want to know your impression on that.
I'll tell people they need to get out of this Instagram life and this Instagram fantasy People look at all that. This, listen, it is delusion and illusion. I get it that some people just may have it and all that wonderfulness, but if you look at behind the scenes of some of these people who are faking and shaking on social media, or these social media flexers, behind the scenes, majority of these little fake. They are renting this stuff, borrowing somebody else's stuff, they taking pictures in front of somebody else's thing. It is the spirit of delusion. You have to get back to yourself. Turn it. If you just doing it for the likes, come on, turn it off. Imposter syndrome is edified when you go. I'm sitting here right now freaking because my internet connection play, but I can sit here and get in my whole. My God, but all the content creators got all the best lighting and all the things. No, listen, I have to get out the way and get out. And a lot of times people look at that, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm guilty of that too. When I first learned about social media, you don't get likes, that mean you're not popular. And I'm like, wait a minute, you ain't never really. So why are you all of a sudden caring about what people think or what people say? And so I had to pull it back and really back in and remember to give scripture to it. I would go to 2 Corinthians 10:4-5. Like, cast down them imaginations. Yes, we have some anointed ministry online, and I'm telling you, I check in and I be listening, or there's somebody that know how to do bath scrubs. That's like making self-care stuff. And I'm like, this is amazing. And I will watch it, but everybody is they faking. Come on. If you can recognize a fake friend or you say person in church and you real quick to run from them, we got to get some discernment about it. Holy Ghost discernment and say, is this edifying me or is this making me feel vulnerable? Me feel like I'm inadequate and I'm not enough. And the reality is that's what some of these social media content creators do. They're created to make you want to be better, to buy a product that you get home and you mad that Amazon has sent you this mess, and cut away from that. If you realizing that it's affecting, maybe so tied with social media and you need to cut it. AI is not your father, and we need to recognize that. And it's so funny because Holy Spirit was me earlier. He was like, listen, I will not compete with AI and social media. You better open up that paper Bible or get an app or write it down in a journal and remember who I said you were. Stop trying. This is competing with this on 100, and we need to stop it.
Yeah. Well, I just threw it out, I just noticed, in the statistics that are out there, even for our young people, young ladies today, there's been such a ridiculous increase in the amount of girls that are dealing with anxiety, and then especially our Black males dying at very, very high rates. From 16 to 24 dying by suicide now, and even grown men up to age 50. I think it's the second or third leading cause of death for even grown men. And inadequate in society, whether it's by viewing through social media or just what we're seeing on the news, or just, again, not knowing how to cut toxic ties that have you feeling as though you're on something, or if you were involved in the past, and let's say you've made decisions which I think a lot of us have been in that space. I have a lot of things in my past that I used to say I regret, but I don't, because I know I made them in a hurt place or a lonely place. And it's still who I am today. With every bad decision that I made, every misguided decision I made, every hurt decision that I made, it still allowed me to become the woman that I am today. And now, if I was still reeling in those decisions from back in my teens and 20s, then that's a problem, because then I'm not growing, because I'm not learning. But I can honestly say, yes, there's some things I wish I would have done differently, but there's some things I just didn't know any better. And those, I bring that up to say, for those that might be reeling from those things as well, you can't make up. You can't make up for lost time. You can't make up for bad decisions in the past. All you can do is start from where you are today and move forward. And if people can't move with you, sometimes you got to let those people go. Because if you sought forgiveness, whether they don't even hear you in that moment, you can seek forgiveness with God. And as long as he can accept that and move and have you to move forward, that's what's poignant at that time. And when that other person comes around, they come around. And if they don't, life has to move forward, and so don't you. And so I say that even to those, again, I come from parents that were both on drugs and made very bad decisions at some point, but I did learn to forgive them in the capacity of who they were. To tell them, you can't make up. Like, I'm grown now. You can't go back and give me the childhood and the adolescence that I wish I had. You can't take back some of those decisions that you made, but you can try to help me build trust in you now, or give me space to get there. And so I just say that to you all: forgive yourselves. If you are one of those people that did make those decisions, you've caused harm to other people in your place, whether it was being lost, whether you didn't have what you was doing, you still did it. You still have to have grace for yourself so that you can move. And for those that were hurt,
Yep.
I'm not telling you how to forgive. I'm telling you it's a process. You can say it and not feel it and not truly mean it. I've been there too. I said, I forgive you, Mom. And it took me 10 years to really honestly forgive her. And I wish I would have forgiven her sooner, because I felt like when she died, I lost time, because I should have just accepted who she was and not wanted her to be Mrs. Cosby, because that's not who she could ever be to me. So again, this is not just about demonizing people that you have toxic ties with. It's so that you can be in a healthy space to move on where you need to be, because at the end of the day, you're only accountable for yourself. It's that judgment day. God's not going to ask you about everybody else. He's going to ask you about you.
Absolutely.
Why didn't you have a deeper relationship? You can't say it's because I was hurt 10 years ago. And you can't say I've been depressed for 20 years, God. That can't be the answer that you give. So at the end of the day, I want to thank you both for joining me, Dr. Rosie and Ms. Desiree, to our incredible guests that joined us as well, every listener that was tuning in live, and those that will listen to the replay. Again, share it. You can drop a line in there. You can tag somebody else that you know that might receive this. Please know that you can find this on Lewis. This will be on there indefinitely. Join us again. We'll be coming back to you with another episode of Irreconcilable Differences on next Monday. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what does reshaping and reclaiming really look like. I tell people all the time, at the age of 34, I was 35, excuse me, I was homeless as a grandmother, and less than 4 years later, I became a millionaire. So there's nothing comes to renewing and reshaping your life. Walk you through what that reshaping your life looks like, so you can be in a place where you can receive an opportunity that God might be putting before your face. And you don't want to turn it down because you're still in a space of being toxic, that you're still stuck in your, or you can't see beyond your present. So we'll get a little deeper into that and talk about how you can have a renewal several times in your life. There's no such thing as just one rebound. We can have several rebounds in our lives.
Yes.
And the blessing that we have is you can restart anytime.
Yes.
Anytime you can restart. So thank you again. I was your host, Sophia Strother-Lutz. And until then, you are not what you walked away from. You are who you're becoming. And that is so very, and become it. And we'll see you on next Monday, 9